Willa Glenn woke to silence, the kind that doesn't soothe, but warns. Outside her cabin window, the valley below was wrong. Not empty, not peaceful, occupied. Hundreds of mounted warriors stood in perfect stillness, their dark silhouettes sharp against the pale dust. They weren't moving. They weren't attacking. They were just watching her. 3 nights ago, she'd fed 15 starving men who'd staggered from the tree line, hollow-eyed, speaking a language she didn't know. Hunger needs no translation. She'd given them everything. Her last cornbread, dried venison, even the preserves she'd been saving for winter. In return, their leader left a small carved bird, wings outstretched, smooth as river stone. Now 3 days after burying her last chicken, killed by a fox, buried out of spite, she stood on her porch, rifle at her side, facing an army. They hadn't moved, hadn't charged, just waited. 3 winters had passed since her husband's heart gave out. Since then, the ranch had grown heavier, the floorboards louder, the well deeper, the mountains leaning in like they wanted to bury her. Yesterday, Nolan Cassidy had sat on her porch rail, hat spinning in his hands. "Come stay with me," he'd said, "just till things settle." But things hadn't settled. Not since the treaties broke. Not since raids crept closer to the valley. She'd seen the look in his eyes, pity wrapped in impatience. Everyone expected her to fold. She hadn't. Now, Nolan thundered up the trail with 2 armed men, dust choking the air behind them. He dismounted before his horse stopped. "What in God's name did you do?" "I've fed them. And now they've brought an army." He grabbed her arm. "You've put us all in danger." Willa pulled free. Behind her, the warriors remained motionless, statues in the morning light. One of Nolan's men muttered, "You don't bring 300 men to say thank you." Then came more hoofbeats. From the east, 4 settlers, rifles ready, faces tight with fear. Harlan, broad-shouldered and grim, called out, "We'll have 50 men here by nightfall." Willa stepped between them and the valley. "No one's riding for help. No one's starting a fight," Harlan scoffed. "That's not a delegation. That's an invasion." But the warriors didn't flinch. The air grew thick, like rope pulled taut, one snap from breaking, one nervous finger on a trigger, and this valley would drown in blood for generations. Willa turned to Nolan. "Give me 1 day. Let me find out what they want. And if they want you dead, then you'll know by sunset." Grudgingly, they left, backs stiff, fear riding them like a second skin. Alone again, Willa clutched the wooden bird in her palm. 2 now, not threats, gifts. And somewhere in that silent sea of warriors, an answer waited. She had until dusk to find it, before the valley burned. She walked down from the porch, boots kicking up dust. At 50 feet, she stopped, heart hammering, and raised her palm. "Willa," she said, touching her chest. "My name is Willa." Silence. Then, the older warrior from before nudged his horse forward. He touched his own chest. "Nez, a name. A beginning." He swept his arm, the valley, the warriors, her cabin, her, a connection just out of reach. She pointed to the bird on her porch, then placed a hand over her heart in thanks. Nez called out. 4 warriors dismounted, returned with a bundle wrapped in hide. Inside, dried meat, cornmeal, preserved fruit, enough to last 2 winters. Her hands trembled. This wasn't conquest. It was repayment. Then, hoofbeats. Again, 20 settlers charged in from the west, rifles across their saddles. Harlan led them, Nolan close behind, face pale with dread. They formed a line between Willa and the warriors. "It ends now," Harlan said. Willa stepped forward, arms wide. Nobody fires. Nobody moves. But the moment had shifted. The warriors' hands hovered near their weapons. The air crackled. Nez rode forward once more. He looked at Willa, and in his eyes, she saw a choice. Walk back to safety, or stand with us. She turned her back on the settlers, and walked toward Nez, stopped beside his horse, faced the men who'd come ready to fight. "I'm asking you to trust me," she said. "These men aren't here for war. How do you know?" Nolan's voice cracked. "Because they'd have killed me already. They brought food. They're repaying a debt," Harlan spat. 300 warriors don't deliver groceries." Then Nez spoke. One sharp command. As one, all 300 warriors dismounted, sat, laid their weapons on the ground. Hands empty, visible, vulnerable. The settlers froze. A young man from the original 15 stepped forward. Hashk. In halting English, he spoke. We were lost. 4 days without food. Every settler we met threw rocks, fired guns, chased us away. His voice broke. You saw us as men, not enemies. He turned to the seated warriors. My father is chief. Old law says, if someone saves your family from death, they become family, protected. Always. Forever? Nolan asked, stunned. Hashk nodded. Forever. We don't stay, but we return to check, to bring supplies, to help. He paused. And if someone hurts her, we make it right. One settler muttered. You're claiming this land. No, Hashk said firmly. We claim her. The land is yours. But she is ours too. Willa felt the weight settle on her shoulders. She hadn't just shared a meal. She'd forged a bond that would reshape this valley for generations. Nolan stepped close, voice low. Do you understand what you've done? You've made yourself the bridge between two worlds that don't want to touch. Willa looked at the warriors sitting in the dust, then at the settlers gripping their rifles. Maybe, she said softly. That's exactly what this valley needed. The sun dipped toward the western hills. Willa sat on her porch, the warrior's bounty piled near her door. The settlers lingered, rifles lowered but not sheathed. Nez and Hashk sat before her, respectful distance between them. Hashk spoke gently. What my father offers isn't a burden. It's honor. To be chosen as family means your life has value beyond blood. Willa picked at her dress. I never asked for this. No one asks for family, he said. It just happens. What if I say no? Hashk translated. Nez answered instantly. You can refuse protection, Hashk relayed, but not the gratitude. The food is yours. The debt is paid. The bond remains, in our hearts even if not in yours. Nolan stepped closer. This changes everything. If word spreads you're under tribal protection, some will call you a traitor. Others will use you. You'll never have peace again. Willa stood slowly, knees aching, voice steady. I haven't had peace since my husband died. Maybe I've been alone too long. Maybe this is how I get a family again. She turned to the settlers. I know this scares you. It scares me too, but I'm tired of fear deciding how we live. They could have taken everything. Instead, they brought gifts, sat unarmed, offered me something I haven't felt in years. She paused. Tears glistened. They offered me respect. Harlan's voice softened. And what do you want from us? A chance. Not trust. Just a chance. Let them leave knowing the next time they come, it won't be to rifles and fear. One by one, the settlers lowered their barrels to the ground. Hashk translated. Nez nodded. Just once. Then, as one, the warriors rose, mounted, and prepared to leave. Nay approached Willa one last time. From his pouch, he pulled a third carved bird and pressed it into her palm. Hashk translated 3 birds. 1 for the meal you gave. 1 for the lives you saved. 1 for the bridge you built. Willa's tears finally fell. 6 months later, winter buried the valley under 3 feet of snow. Willa stood on her porch, wrapped in wool, watching smoke curl from distant chimneys. Nolan trudged up the path, boots crunching ice. He handed her a cloth-wrapped bundle. From the Coopers. Fresh bread, she smiled. 6 months ago, the Coopers wouldn't speak to her. They called her a traitor. That changed the day raiders struck the valley. Hashk and 30 warriors appeared within hours, tracked the thieves, recovered stolen livestock, escorted them to the sheriff. No bloodshed, no vengeance. Just justice. After that, fear began to thaw. Nolan sat beside her, breath fogging in the cold. Martha's teaching her daughter to carve wood, wants to make one of those birds. Said it'd be nice to remember this winter by. Willa glanced at the 3 birds hanging above her door, swaying in the draft. Hashk visited twice a month now. Settlers greeted him by name. The Cooper boy was learning his language. She hadn't just fed 15 starving men. She'd sparked something fragile but real. Trust. You were right, Nolan said quietly, about giving them a chance. About being the bridge. Willa didn't answer. She just watched the snowfall. Her life wasn't easier. People came to her with disputes, asked her to speak for them. She carried messages between worlds. She'd become exactly what Nolan feared. The bridge. But she wasn't alone anymore. And in a place as hard and unforgiving as this valley, that meant everything. Inside her cabin, the 3 wooden birds turned slowly in the cold breeze. One for kindness, one for courage, one for the bridge built not with wood or stone, but with a single choice, to see a stranger as someone worth saving. The wind howled through the valley, cold, fierce, endless. But Willa Glen stood warm on her porch, protected not by walls or weapons, but by an alliance born from a bowl of cornbread and an open door. If this story moved you, tap to watch another. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you can, drop a super chat. Your support keeps stories like Willa's alive, for everyone who still believes in bridges, not walls.